Strip, by the way, just for everybody who doesn't know, is a piece of paper twisted once, connected together, only has one side. So even though it's a two-sided piece of paper, you can put a pencil on it and pull the paper through, and you cover every side of the paper.
Exactly. It's an illusion. If you were in control of everything, then you are bound to be aware that at some point, particularly in a communication age like we have, that the public will wake up to the great scam. And so, therefore, you will prepare for it. I mean, I can confidently say that the awakening is not part of it. It's the last thing they want, but they did know it was going to happen. And believe me, they've managed, they have put into place things to control and manage this.
What, such as?
Well, the very process of the synicists, as they call them, which go right back to the 20s and earlier, is to take whatever circumstances arise and make the best of them using disinformation. There's no political angle to this. There is no politics, if anyone hasn't realised that yet.
So they undermine the people who talk about these things?
Yeah, if someone serious gets out there, talking about it rationally and actually making an impact...
Like John Kennedy did.
Like John Kennedy, then things will happen. If circumstances arise which they... which are detrimental to them, they will use it. And the way they can do that in this information age is so simple. There are lots of people who have got off their backsides, are sticking their necks out, are spending their own money, going bankrupt, whatever, throwing their lives into revealing something that the British public and the global public need to know. And then there's people out there who, just because of the internet or whatever, they think that, well, I'm sat here, I can't do anything, so I think I don't agree with what he said, so I'll slag him off. And they actually will finance these people. And, I've proven this myself once or twice recently, that you have, for want of a better word, defence intelligence guidance of those who haven't actually got a mind of their own. They can't put...
So it's like rent-a-mob, isn't it?
It's a rent-a-goon, basically. These people who don't actually have a mind or can't actually present their case. I could argue a point with you. I could say all sorts of horrible things about you.
Please do.
But I'd rather sit here, and if I disagreed with you, I'd rather say, well, I disagree because I think this is it. And then you can discuss it. Not these people. They'll attack you because that's all they're capable of doing.
Now, I know you've been attacked, haven't you? Or you've had threats made and certain things have happened to you.
From all angles,
Do you want to describe some of those events or not?
Well, it's usually... it depends how far back you want to go.
Well, since you became a thorn in their side.
Well, I was warned off originally, and I have to admit, I didn't really understand who or why or whatever.
How did they warn you off originally?
I was told to drop what I was investigating.
By whom?
I don't know. The person who did it represented himself as a potential client of mine. So I drove up the A1 to a site. This was when I was building society manager.
You met on the M1, didn't you?
On the A1.
Was it a service station you met?
No. I drove up the A1 to a plot of land just off the A1 to meet this potential client, and we're discussing mortgage finance and so on. And, of course, introductions were made, very canny guy. And it just sort of went from there. He said, I'm not actually here to do that. I'm here to give you a warning. And it was like, well, how would you react?
Well, with surprise.
It's like surprise. It's like,
So what did he say with his warning? How serious was the warning?
Drop it. Drop what you're investigating. And I said, well, what are you talking about, man? I don't know what the hell you're on about. He said the banking stuff. I mean, I'm not going to go word for word into it, but
Why not? It's after 9.
Well, because it's after 9 now, is it?
It is.
I still won't go into it. I told him exactly what you can bloody do with it, though. How come the swear words? And said, you cannot talk to me like that,
Did
mate.
he threaten you?
He threatened my child at the time, yeah.
Your child?
Yeah. Who was very young then. I said, you can't talk to me like that. He said, I'll talk to you any way I want to. So I felt very threatened, and I was ready to sort of...
Did he look like a military man?
I said, who the hell do you think you are? He said, it doesn't matter who I am. Just drop what you're doing. Nothing more will be said. Da-da-da-da. So, I mean, it was shocking, and I actually didn't tell anyone that, except my closest friends at the time. I certainly didn't tell my wife or whatever. That was until years later. And I did actually drop out. I thought, I'm going to keep my bloody head down now, because, well, you know, it sort of comes from left field and it leaves you fielded. Later on, talking about creating money out of nothing, we did decide, I and a few others did decide to use the system itself to raise funds, all right? And in the same way the bankers will create money out of nothing.
You were doing a bit of that, were you?
We went down, I came down to London with others. There was at the time, and I've not looked at this since, but there was at the time only one agency, anyone wanting to do this financial transaction, and I can't go into the detail, it's boring and naff, but had to go through this one agency. So I was sat in this posh office in Mayfair and was asked the question, right, before we institute all this paperwork, a man sat behind the desk, can I ask what you'll be using the money for? And we were looking to raise about 3 million. Well, Mr. Naive here said, well, yeah, once we've got the money, we're going to publicise what's going on and blow the banking scam. Oh, big mistake.
I think that probably was a bit naive.
It was very naive, but that's the way it happened.
So you didn't get the loan?
It wasn't a loan, mate. We're going to create it out of nothing overnight. Just one of the secrets of the financial system.
Now, you know what's going to happen now? Everybody who's watching this show will be saying, well, can you tell me how you do that?
Well, the same way as the bankers do it. You raise an asset which has a value of, let's say, I don't know, £100,000, only overnight. You need someone to back this for you. You get the asset, and then you trade on that asset 10 times over, repay the loan that you got to buy the asset and keep the rest. So we were going for about £3 million.
Well, why didn't you do it again?
Because there's only one agency through which you could do it.
Well, you could have got a friend, I suppose, to do it, or...
You could do, but when it's basically an intelligence net operation. So from that time, it sort of became... You know, I changed my opinion of the world entirely at that point. This was, if I can put a date to it, 95, 96, I think.
So there are people who are doing this all the time, are they?
Well,
it's like a sort of fractional reserve banking.
I can't honestly say yes. I guess that there are, because I never went back and I never pursued this. It always struck me as a bit funny that we could actually go and create this money, but you know, it is possible to do that. Quite honestly, that was the scariest moment for me, because it became obvious that there are powers out there who will stop anyone who susses the system from actually using it. Now, I guess if I'd been a rich, you know, a wealthy person going down and wanting to create funds overnight, then this agency would have taken its cut and I would have been cleared and so on and so forth. It's not good. It's a netting operation, and my understanding was it was MI5 netting operation. But these guys don't produce their ID cards, although he was very clear. And once again, I said, you can't speak to me like that. This is a free country.
Oh, hold on. You're talking about the guy in the field again, are we?
No.
This is the guy who asked you...
Yeah. And my words
when you say
to
netting operation, you mean like trying to catch criminals or something?
Well, to stop anyone from actually sussing the system. You can't... I can't claim to know the detail of that. I don't know what happens beyond it.
Where you live now, you've had visits.
I have the odd harassment, yeah. You know, one or two friends have seen it. You know, people sat outside. I'm not paranoid. I won't get paranoid about this. I've had the years where you sort of worry. You've had the threats and so on. But a good old friend of mine, there was these guys sat under the flat, outside my flat, a number of weeks ago, about 3 months ago. A friend of mine started yelling at them, and I think she was going to flash her bum at them as well. But they were clearly police or officers or whatever in a car, just sat there, long time, until she started abusing me.
Wow, so this is over several days they were there.
No, this was hours on this particular occasion.
Okay.
And I did point them out to her, and she says, "Yep, that's the law, you know." So she starts slagging them off.
But it's not an offence to sit outside your house.
No, it's not. It's not. It isn't. And they could have been perfectly innocent people. But the second you actually start, hey, you know, harassing them back, what happens? 30 seconds later, blue light comes literally screaming along the road outside the flat, and this police car, jam sandwich as they're popularly called, does a U-turn, drives off at high speed, and the car behind it follows him. So, you know, very low-level harassment. That's the sort of thing that goes on. Now, you know, I don't imagine for a second a policeman in the local police station is actually going to want to get embroiled in that, but they'll, you know, things like, go and park there, can be said to them. I don't know how they operate. And I don't intend to get paranoid about it.
No.
But it's nothing really worth going into the detail of. They have their ways and methods. You know, I've come down to London a few times in the last year, and they've made themselves known. I have been reliably informed that that means that they don't perceive you as a threat.
Well, you're not writing books.
Nope.
You're not writing as a journalist or articles about it, are you? But you are speaking publicly. You are appearing on television shows like this. I know you've been on Eerie Investigations, for instance.
I'm doing what I used to do in business. I'm going out and meeting key people, making the connections, and so on. So maybe they perceive that as a greater threat, because it does concern me. I haven't actually seen them on this trip all the last
These people you talk to, do you ever get the impression when you're talking to people who work in finance that actually they do know?
In finance, no. No. I've been able to talk to a number in finance and explain it to them, and you can see the light bulb go on. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, hell. Yeah, we could print it ourselves, couldn't we?
And do they then get angry, or do they seem concerned?
No, it's sort of a more natural human response of just sort of slipping back into the way things are.
Well,
not
we've
worrying
been
about
conned.
it.
We've all been conned.
Don't worry about it, you know.
But let's go back to this farming thing. We're all being farmed, okay? In what way are we being farmed?
Well, if you consider that every individual in the country, in some way or form, whatever job they do, is putting their labour and their time into creating whatever they do. Much of that draws on global resources, natural resources, but there's a leech issuing the currency as a debt. So if you want to set up a business, you have to go to the bank and borrow the money, repay it at interest rates, and so on and so forth. Whereas, in fact, if it was not issued as a debt in the first place, you could borrow that money and not pay any interest other than maybe a fee for arranging it and so on. Because obviously people need to be paid for doing stuff. So it's literally raping the planet, the global resources. And this is the cause of global warming and so, or whatever.
And this is called usury, isn't it, anyway?
Usury.
And yet in most religions, usury is illegal, including Christianity.
Of course.
And Judaism and Islam all make usury illegal, and yet they all seem to do. Maybe I'm wrong about Judaism.
Judaism was the one religion where they could. So going back in history, the Christians would use the Jewish moneylenders because it was okay for them to do it. But usury. I mean, I remember as a kid sort of growing up and you've read the Bible and reading all this stuff and you hear about Jesus going and stonking the temple and having a go at the money changers. And well, what's that about then? You know, why was he a bit annoyed about that then?
Well, he was Jewish anyway.
Yeah. What was going on then? Because the Bible doesn't tell you. But actually, when you do research that, there's a tremendous story behind that bit.
What was the story then?
Oh, no, don't go there. It's long and drawn out, and I would need my notes to refer to some of the names. But usury is the real problem. That is the problem. It doesn't, because we don't need it.
So we're all being used by the usurers.
Yeah. A common question is, well, hang on, if you can't lend money, then how can anything work? Oh, print it yourself. That's the answer.
But you can't. That's
but within
illegal,
limits.
isn't it?
Within limits. Sorry, I meant the nation printed itself, not the individual.
No. So the nation. So the British people should have the money printed, and then how would they have it? It wouldn't be given to us, would it?
In exactly the same way as it is now. You would work for it, you would earn it, and so on. But the companies would not be set up with debts.
Mark, we're going to go for another break now. Once again, if you'd like to text in your questions or comments to Mark Cocking, why not do so now? Just text 87778 with the word EDGE, and then your text, and we'll see you back here soon. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Mark Cocking. This is the last section of the show, so hopefully this is one where we're going to get some answers to what people can do and so on. And I know one of the things you feel that we can do, and this is not about banking, is not paying your BBC television licence.
Well, yeah, that sounds a bit minor set against everything else. What's happening around the country is that there's a movement, John Harris, I think you've spoken to.
John Harris, yes, tpuc.org, yeah.
That's the one. Go and have a look at tpuc.org. And it's about standing up against, in a lawful way, lawful rebellion, standing up against the system as it stands. Because, as a friend of mine, well, Charity Sweet would say, it is all bollocks, the whole thing. And you can't stand up against it. So one example of that is the TV licence at the BBC. Now, a classic example, actually, I believe you had Jane Burgermeister on the other day. Now, I wrote to the BBC recently pointing out that there is an argument, which seems to be backed up by scientific investigation, quite clearly, that the vaccine for the swine flu that's going around is potentially lethal, very dangerous anyway. And that if they are actually putting out, doing what their charter demands of them, they should be saying there's two sides to this story and they should be looking into it. But nobody mentions anything about the risks associated with this. Jeremy Vine on his phone in, you try and contact them or you send them emails, nothing gets mentioned. So I did complain officially to the BBC. And they wrote back very politely after a few days, pointing out that, in fact, it is consensus opinion among doctors that the vaccine and Tamiflu, which was created by a very well-known person in America who's profiting from this, is safe. Oh, well, so suddenly the BBC are reporting consensus opinion, and that's their job as far as they're concerned. So I and many others have suggested that they should at least put the balanced point of view, because when things start to happen, if people take this vaccine, then we will come back and get them, because they are not fulfilling their charter, and we will not let them get away with it. And one way of doing that is don't pay your TV licence fee.
And you think there's a legal way for you to do that?
Well, there is. You send them a letter, and if you look on tpuc.org, it is there. It is actually illegal to pay money to anyone who is committing a treason, and there's a very plausible legal case that they are committing a treason against the people and the Crown in this country.
And you're saying that they're doing this because they're accepting money from the EU and it's not an EU institution?
That's right. They've accepted money from the EU, and that's why they're always pressing the EU policy. Now,
well, I'm not encouraging you to do anything on the show, but you handed me this letter. This is your letter.
That's right.
To Sir Michael Lyons at the BBC. He's the chairman of the BBC, apparently. And in this, you give the reasons why you are refusing henceforth to pay, or it's a notice before action. So you're going to send this, are you?
I'm going to send that.
So, as I say, I'm not encouraging you to sign it, but, oh, look, there's a pen.
Oh, flipping heck. What's my name again?
I believe it's Mark Cocking.
That's the one, yeah. There we go.
OK, well, you better take that letter then, because you need to post it, don't you?
That's going off, and you can track it if you want to.
If indeed that is your will to do that.
Yeah. The point is...
But that's one tiny thing, isn't it?
It's a tiny thing, but there are many, many other things that can be done. And as I say, if you look at TPUC, they'll give you insights and perhaps guidance on what to do. Now, when I stop paying this, of course, they will send me, they'll try and prosecute me. They'll send out one of their inspectors. And because all statute law is actually, it doesn't apply to you unless you accept it, I simply won't accept it. So when he comes round, if he wants to, or you see that my television is there and it is working or whatever, he will say, right, you are guilty, you're breaking such and such a statute, write out the ticket, sign this. Well, I'm not signing it, because that ticket is issued against my birth certificate, the legal personage that this state created, and I am a free person. I am not that legal person. I'm a lawful person.
Okay.
And it is unlawful to fund an institution that is, A, committing treasons with Europe to remove our rights, or at least not standing up for us and pointing out to the people that this is happening, and many, many other such things.
Okay,
so
but this is, you know, I mean, okay, this is a symbolic act, if you like.
Yeah.
But what it seems that we are facing, if what you're saying is correct, is that, you know, we are being farmed by these people. We are being abused by these people, that our money is not what we're told that it is. So, you know, what can we do about this much bigger picture? I mean, one of the things that I noticed on your Facebook site was that, and this fascinated me, was that the square mile is not part of the UK.
No, it's
Is this true?
Well, I'll tell you what, if it isn't true, get someone on and show us that it isn't. But it is true. The square mile is not part of the United Kingdom.
This is the City of London.
The City of London.
Which is guarded by these dragons,
That's right. Well, that's strange, really, that it's got reptilian creatures guarding it. And the Queen herself actually has to ask permission to walk into it.
Well, she does once a year, doesn't she?
Yeah, but she requires permission. So the mayor of the square mile will take her in.
It's like the Black Rod thing into the House of Commons, because the Queen also requires permission to go into the House of Commons when she opens Parliament. That's
right, but that's because the Commons belongs to us, sort of thing. How funny is that? So let's one day take it back. But
So how do you know that the square mile is not part of the United Kingdom?
Because there have been much research done into this over the years by many people. What the square mile actually is a nation-state all of its own. It is owned by the elite bankers and their associates. It's also, and this is where people will get lost off, but the square mile exists in its own right. It is not subject to the laws of the United Kingdom. It's an independent city-state. And the United States of America is a wholly owned subsidiary as well.
Of what?
Of that city-state. All profits, everything made in the United States of America, legally paid through that city-state. Now, that sounds like a profound thing. Go research it, come back, tell me I'm wrong. In fact,
what about
the Prime Minister could save us so much time.
What about the Declaration of Independence?
Well, that was, the whole thing really was a Freemasonic setup. America tried to fight for independence from the UK because of the very thing we're talking about, the banking scam. They stood up against it. They wanted independent, free currency, debt-free. And of course, what did they finally get?
Federal Reserve.
They got the Federal Reserve, which is the complete undermining, which is why America's on the verge of revolution. So, what can we do in this country? The elite, and I don't mean, I must draw a line here between elite and people with money. This is not an eat the rich thing. This is not a socialist thing. It's not about going after those people with money if you haven't got it. This is about removing the elite controllers who are sucking the system dry. They use occult knowledge, hidden knowledge, sacred geometry as part of that. They have the square mile. I'm suggesting that at some point do be announced in the future that the people in this country peacefully rise up and go to London en masse, and actually, rather than do what they do, which is squaring the circle, well, we'll encircle the square. A huge symbolic act. They can try and stop us if they want. They can call it a protest if they want. But under their own definition, if we show no emotion of any sort, it's not even a protest or a demonstration.
So let me just get this straight, because this, I think, is quite important. What you're proposing, then, is that a huge number of people who are aware of these things that you're claiming about our currency and the control over us, and that we are being farmed by this elite that owns the Bank of England, go to the square mile of London, the City of London, peacefully, without placards or...
No placards.
Without chanting.
No demonstration, because the media...
without any demonstration, just go to the City of London on a certain day, at a certain time.
That's right, and let's make it a symbolic day. You know, 10, 10, 10, 11, 11, 11, whatever. one of those days.
Okay, well,
11 resonates nicely for various reasons, but...
Well, I suppose 9 does as well. But well, that would be next month then, wouldn't it? 999.
Every time I look at my watch or a clock, it says 11:11. So, you know, I don't know. But
that's 2 years away. Maybe that'll be too late.
The point is, it might be. I mean, I don't know. The trouble is...
Whereas 999...
What they're trying to do...
only, you know, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks away.
Well, if we want to do it, then fine. But, you know, are the British public actually going to do this? Is this message going to sink in by then?
I don't know.
I hope so. Because...
People,
what they're being incited
people
to
can
do.
be bothered to go to flash mobs
I know.
in Waterloo Station where they all stand around dancing.
I've been misquoting.
If they can be bothered to do that, could they not be bothered to save the planet?
Well,
by going
would
and standing
think so.
around the City of London?
You would think
perhaps.
so. But, as I've said a couple of times in misquoting Churchill, never in the field of human apathy has so much been given away by so many to so few. And that's what's happened in this country. So it's time. You might be sat at home thinking, well, this is all irrelevant to me because tomorrow morning I've got to go out and do my job. I'll tell you, not long from now, your job ain't going to be there because they're going to collapse this economy. Their only solution will be move into the euro, and in America it'll be the Amero, which is all they're waiting.
Yeah, the Amero is the currency which is Canada, United States and Mexico.
I personally suspect that they'll make it so bad that they won't even take those steps. They'll just move straight to the global currency that they talked about
which they already
at G20.
Have. Doesn't the Bank of International Settlements already have?
It's all what they talked about it at G20.
Currency.
Yeah, it's all set up, waiting for the moment when the public won't respond violently to it. And if they do, they will crush that violent... They actually want a violent response to this. And that's why they're stirring up trouble with other people, to get these idiots, and there's plenty of them out there, to, for want of a better word, have an armed revolution. So it can be crushed. We suddenly have a police state overnight. That's what they want. I'm saying it's time for the British public to stand up and do something.
And have a peaceful demonstration.
Yeah. There's things happening now.
Peaceful, not even a demonstration.
Not even a demonstration.
Just
no,
be there.
Don't demonstrate. We go to London and we take Parliament back simply by being there. Now, all right, and we can give them the date. It doesn't have to be a secret.
But
let them stop us.
Parliament is in the City of Westminster. It's not in the City of London.
Well, you know.
So let's... If you're going to do it, Mark, you've got to get your plan straight. So is it the City of Westminster or the City of London?
This is not my plan. I am saying we have to do something, and there's enough people out there with brilliant ideas and brilliant organisational skills. This is open to everyone in this country. It's not for me to say that we should do it. I like the idea of encircling...
Isn't this where these sort of things all fall apart? Because person A goes, let's go there, and person B... And it ends up like Life of Brian, doesn't it?
All right, then let me correct what I'm saying. By encircling the square mile, we will effectively take our Parliament back. We don't have to storm it.
This is your master plan, if you like, that
it's a suggestion.
As many people as possible, on a certain day that has significance for them, not necessarily for the people who go there, go to just travel to the City of London and surround it.
And stare at
Not with
them.
any threat, not stopping the traffic. And
you know what? The media, who have ignored this up to now, because they are fully controlled, there's only 3 people own the media, largely,
but not this station.
Not this station, no. Thank God for this station. But the media will be coming to us.